Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. My name is Sean, and I'm delighted you are joining us for today's ESPC Community Webinar. Today I'm joined by Jonas Waters, who will cover the top reasons 75% of low-code, no-code programs fail and how to make yours succeed. We love hearing what you guys have to say, so remember to join in on the conversation about today's webinar and more on X. Our handle is at ESPC_community, and our hashtag is hashtag ESPC24. Tweet us, tag us, and tell us what you learned. Don't forget to check out our Learning Hub, which is updated daily with the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Learning Hub by visiting our website, sharepointeurope.com, and clicking the Content tab at the top. Don't let the learning stop here. Continue to keep up and stay ahead by joining us for the next webinar, Unlocking Insights, an introduction to Microsoft Fabric's end-to-end analytics solution with Changa Banda. This webinar takes place Friday, 31st of May, 2024 at 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. CEST. For more information on this webinar, please check out www.sharepointeurope.com/register for webinars. Exciting news! The ESPC 24 program is out now. Get ready for 100 plus sessions covering all your favorite Microsoft 365 topics, from governance to Azure, AI to security, and much more. Our fantastic program team has created top-notch content to boost your knowledge. Join us in Stockholm for this stellar event. Book your tickets today at www.sharepointeurope.com/pricing. Get ready to dive into a day filled with insights, inspiration, and innovation. Don't miss out on a chance to connect with industry experts and acquire the skills necessary for success. Save the day because EPC is right around the corner, taking place next month. With just a few two-day tickets remaining, seize the opportunity to secure your spot today by visiting our website, sharepointeurope.com/European Power Platform Conference pricing. Exciting news, introducing the Microsoft Fabric Community Conference. Mark your calendars for September 24th to 27th for an experience packed with workshops, keynotes, and breakout sessions led by Microsoft experts. Explore the latest trends in Microsoft Fabric, including Azure AI and Microsoft Purview. Don't miss out. Register your interest today at sharepointeurope.com/European Microsoft Fabric Community Conference. After this webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. Type any questions you might have into the questions box. Questions will be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you'll be notified by email when it is available. And now, I'm going to pass you over to today's webinar presenter, Jonas. Hello, Jonas. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're from. Nice to see you all at this webinar today. I'm going to start with sharing my screen. And let me know down in the chat if the audio is good, if you can see me properly, if you can see my screen, let it know in the chat.
Yeah, everything's perfect. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Sean, for confirming. So we're going to talk today about the top reasons, 75% of why low-code, no-code programs fail. And the goal of today is to avoid that you become part of this statistic. That's really the goal of today. So let's get started with introducing myself. My name is Jonas. I'm a low-code, no-code strategist working at AppFi. I regularly post content on LinkedIn as well, so feel free to connect with me. I'm sharing my QR code there on the right. You can scan it, and then you can find my profile. Feel free to follow me or connect me. I regularly post on LinkedIn with regards to low-code, no-code, but also artificial intelligence. I've personally over 12 years of experience digitizing organizations, from smaller companies to larger enterprises, and helped over 10 organizations with their low-code strategy. And I've seen a couple of things here and there. So that's what I'm going to share with you here today. I'm Microsoft recognized solution architect since 2023, and that's unique in Belgium and one of the 51 worldwide. AI interest since 2023, really intrigued with everything that's happening in that sphere, like Copilot, etc. And you can always contact me with my email there, you see on the bottom, jonas.waters@appfi.com. So that was about me. Now I want to know who is here in the audience. I want to understand, who are you? What about you? What's your expectation? And the first question I'm having for you is, what is your role? So you can scan the QR code with your smartphone, and then you're able to answer these questions using your smartphone. And we'll see what are the answers that will be coming in. So I'll give everybody a couple of minutes to answer this first one. First question being, what is your role? Are you a business leader? Are you an IT manager? Are you an innovation officer? Or are you someone else? Then the second question we have is, where are you in your low-code, no-code strategy? That is either not started, beginning, running, scaling, or not sure. And then we have a third question. What is your biggest challenge in running or starting a low-code, no-code program? I noticed all three questions are asked at the same time, so you need to go through them, and I'll run through the answers one by one in a minute. So I can see 50% already saying other. I'm looking forward to which role you have. Feel free to drop it down in the chat, and Sean can summarize for us what kind of roles we have here in the audience. A couple of IT managers, a couple of business leaders.
Yeah, so
That's
if
great.
anyone wants to write anything, just put it in the questions box and I'll be able to see it. Yeah.
Innovation officer. Nice. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to flip through the other questions just to share already. So where are people in their low-code, no-code strategy? They're running, scaling, or beginning. So most of you are running a low-code, no-code strategy, which is fantastic. Some of you are even scaling it. That's very good to see. And a couple of you are here beginning with the strategy. All right.
So someone just put in application support and then another person put in Office 365 digital workplace consultant.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, gonna keep it with this. The biggest challenge that I see here, running or starting the program, is commitment. That's an interesting one. Thanks for sharing that. All right, the agenda for today. So what are we going to talk about? So we're going to talk about the common challenges we see every single day at organizations. Then we have a customer story that we want to share with you, how they experience their low-code, no-code journey and their strategy. Thirdly, we're sharing with you how you can succeed. And ending with a gift. If you can keep it until the end, there's a gift specially waiting for you. So why do over 75% of low-code, no-code programs fail? We'll share the top 5 reasons. Are you ready? Let's go. First one, the biggest one, sailing with no destination in mind. Imagine like a ship which is just sailing without a clear direction. Sounds like a recipe for disaster, doesn't it? Well, there are like numerous of organizations that are just starting with a low-code, no-code program without any clear direction or guidance. So it's really similar. It's a recipe for disaster if you don't have your destination in mind. Potentially, some organizations are just jumping on the bandwagon because it's trendy. There's no vision, no smart goals, basically no real destination. Does it sound familiar to some of you here in the call? Feel free again to interact, put it down in the chat. Now, what's the result of this? A couple of things happen when there's no clear direction and goal. Resources get wasted, the team morale declines, and initiatives end up being abandoned. So it's really important to have a clear direction, but more on this later. Second reason why low-code, no-code programs often fail is employees are not adopting it. And not adopting is not really a reason, it's more like a consequence. And I got three main reasons why that consequence occurs. First one is not investing enough in skill building. What we often see is that people don't get the time to upskill themselves. It's something that's expected to be performed in their free time, you see? So it's not really a proper time being freed for people to upskill themselves. Not only that, there's no peer support or collaboration feeling. Learning is becoming a solo endeavor. And the third reason why people are not adopting it and why that as a result fails your program is an absence of reward and accountability. Without a clear reward system or accountability measures, there's little motivation for employees. And how to make users love it? Well, you guessed it, I'll share that later in the deck. Third reason is chaos. So imagine you finally kicked off a low-code, no-code journey with citizen development, and suddenly you have 100 apps in production. Nobody knows who supports them. They start calling you with an issue. Yep, panic. Panic hits in. And this is a real customer case we've seen before. Not having properly structured from the beginning, allowing chaos when suddenly certain shit start hitting the fan. So, and that's about supporting of applications, but it goes way further than that. Imagine about security and compliance. If you don't have anything set up, anything configured, a lot of things are possible with, let's say, Microsoft's Power Platform. And cutting corners in that regard is also a recipe for disaster. And actually, every single low-code, no-code app is potentially an additional security threat. So chaos is a big reason of why things get failed. Basically, people are getting scared, IT is getting frustrated, concerned, and they start to bolt things down. Now, on the other hand, you have the other extreme, which is killing any innovation. Okay, so you can say chaos, allowing and free flowing things, and let's see what happens. On the other extreme, it's like being overly structured, spending a lot of time and money. We've seen a lot of examples there as well, that they just kill the low code, no code by overdoing it, wasting a lot of money on fancy PowerPoints, complex processes, without having a real demand on it. So you're creating too many rules, too much control, and that over governance, it kills the agility that the platform brings. It kills the rapid application development, and it becomes a bureaucratic slog, you know. So you need to really find the balance between freedom and accountability. And that's where the previous one, chaos, and the other one here, okay, innovation assassin in a sense, killing innovation. You need to find the right balance where you have frustration and disengagement as a result when you have too much procedures in place. So governance should be enabled focused, not restrict focused. And we often talk about the center of enablement as an example. You really need to enable your organization on the platform. Of course, with some guardrails in place to prevent the previous thing, the chaos. All right, and number 5 already, the wrong people hosting the party. What does this mean? So it is about the wrong stakeholders. You can have people that are missing in your stakeholder group, or the wrong people that are in your stakeholder group. For example, things that are often said is low code, no code. It's an IT thing. It's something for IT. So business doesn't mind with it. On the other hand, you have also business saying, yeah, low code, no code, it's a business thing, and it's not an IT thing. This is an example of the fact that you get great silos and not the right people, stakeholders engaged in your low code, no code journey. So it should be a combination. of multiple people together. And we'll share with you today as well the roles that are successful or that needed for a successful low-code, no-code journey. And it should be a combination of IT and business. And for example, fusion development. Who has heard about that term, fusion development? Feel free to drop the definition in the chat. So wrong stakeholders, people not having the right mandate is a typical example as well, and buy-in from upper management. When that's lacking, there's also a recipe for disaster.
So someone just said there we use fusion development.
Yeah, fantastic. So the question was more like, what is fusion development? And fusion development, I'll answer the question. It's about IT and business working together. It's more the business user with a low-code, no-code skill set working together more with an IT savvy user, which can be more pro-code oriented. And multiple people, multiple disciplinary skills working together, that's what we call fusion development. And this is really what should be happening on the platform. And you shouldn't be creating those silos between IT, business, or other domains. So this is really a big reason of why the program fails. Now we had the top 5 reasons of why low-code, no-code program fails. I want to hear from you. What do you believe is your biggest challenge or your potential biggest risk of your low-code, no-code program? So you can just drop the number in the chat if you believe that the biggest reason of failure or risk is number 1, not having clear goals, no destination in mind, just sailing along, then you can say 1. Do you believe it's number 2, employees not adopting, not providing sufficient training, support, community? Number 2. Is it number 3, the fact that there's no procedures in place whatsoever, no guardrails, no clear communication, nobody knows who's responsible, nobody knows who's doing what? That's number 3. Then we have number 4, which is the opposite, where you have like IT potentially overdoing everything, making too many procedures, killing any innovation. When someone has an idea, they need to go through multiple questionnaires, multiple process steps, might be then number 4. And then number 5, if you believe that the wrong people are actually doing the low-code enablement or pushing the program forward, do you believe that they don't have sufficient mandate, or maybe the wrong people that are involved? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the biggest reason or concern you might have at your organization now? Feel free to drop it down in the chat.
It looks like there's a lot of 2s mostly, and then a few 1s, and then we have 1 5. Yeah,
All right,
so at least it
thanks.
seems to be a bit of everything.
A bit of everything, yeah, indeed. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the feedback. So what we also would like to share is that it really depends on where you are in your journey. I imagine in the beginning, we asked the question, where do you believe you are in your low-code, no-code journey? Are you more beginning? Are you more scaling? So depending on where you are in your journey, some of the different reasons of failure might be more applicable than others. For example, chaos. You can say when you're in the explore phase, it might be perfectly fine to start with a small bunch of people to explore and to test the business value of the platform before investing in procedures, before investing in heavy governance. It can perfectly be fine in that stage. When you're more in the mobilizing stage, you need to have some governance, some baseline in place, some foundations in place. You need to make sure that people are onboarding and adopting the platform. So more looking at training and innovation. And then lastly, when you look at scaling, you can be rest assured that it's very important that you have the right people, the right sponsors involved, but also the right structure and procedure put in place. So it really depends on where you are in your low-code, no-code journey that you might need to emphasize more on 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And one thing I want to share with you as well is that it's a continuous effort. It's not something you define at one stage and you say, okay, we can forget about it. Imagine the right people being involved in the organization. It's not once defining and not doing anything with it. No, organization change, people change role, new people join the company. When someone new joins the company, how can you involve them in the journey? How can you make sure they're also adopting the platform and that they're not becoming resistant? So it's a continuous effort that you need to uphold to make sure that your low-code, no-code journey remains a success. All right, so let's now jump over to an example customer journey. We have a customer case here that we would like to share with you, and this customer is Fluxys. And Fluxys is an infrastructure provider of gas flow in Europe. So they have the ambition to speed up the energy transition, basically. And what they had as a goal or as a definition was they would like to increase their digital dexterity. And when they were presenting this digital dexterity, I didn't know what it initially meant back in the days. So it was very good that they were very happy to explain their definition of digital dexterity. And for Fluxys, it's the ability and ambition of the workflows force to exploit existing and emerging technology for better business outcomes. 3 ways of doing that: inspire, learn, and experiment. And how did our journey from the Power Platform at Fluxys look like? Well, in the beginning, from an awareness perspective, we started with a hackathon. This is the first experience that we made at organization using the Power Platform. We brought business and IT together and we built an application in a 2-day hackathon. Mobile friendly, good looking application using device native capabilities, really game changing for that organization. They have a lot of custom developments being done in-house, and seeing how something can be built in a matter of days and deliver actual business value was really eye-opening. So that's where it all started, with a hackathon together with IT and business to prove the power of the platform. Next up, we went more into the training aspect, where we hosted regular app in a days. Different stakeholders from different parts of the organization were invited, especially as well IT stakeholders, to understand what are the capabilities of the platform, remove some of those misperceptions. Typical perceptions are, this is just a platform for some sandwich applications or for some small time request applications. No, it can also be a platform for more enterprise capabilities. So opening up people's eyes and removing certain perceptions. And only then, after we passed the 2 first phases, we looked into governance. And we kicked off the Power Platform governance journey, starting by the definition and setup of a center of excellence or center of enablement. And we see a lot of partners as well just installing that center of excellence and thinking that everything is done and governance up, checking the box. Well, I'm here to tell you that's definitely not the case. This is just a tiny piece of the work, the Center of Excellence configuration. For people that don't know the Center of Excellence is a utility of Microsoft that allows you to have a more cross-environment overview of all that's happening on the Power Platform. What apps have people been created? What flows have people been created? How many flows are created? Who is creating what? When are they creating something? All of those things are easily visible in that toolkit. But next to that, you need to work on other things like guidelines. You need to think about procedures, processes. And again, don't go with the innovation assassin that everything just stops and gets killed. It's something that you need to evolve along. And depending on the questions that you might receive from a Center of Enablement team, you can start creating processes. In the beginning, we didn't have a lot of processes defined. It was as soon as citizen developer were starting certain questions, like I want to get access to a certain data source, that we were considering, okay, how in this organization are we going to handle this question? Are we suddenly going to open this data source for everybody? Are we going to create a dedicated environment specifically for that user, for that data source? All of those questions popped up and all of those procedures were written down and explored and defined along we go. we have a lot of templates that we share with our customers, but we typically see that there's something in-house that needs to be tailored and tweaked. We want to tailor it to your processes, your people, and your organization. And that's where we help in the governance stage. Next up, to prove the enterprise architects wrong. So some of the enterprise architects were a bit resistant on the platform. They said, okay, it's fine for some low code, no code citizen development initiatives. So initiatives created by business, but definitely not something important, mission critical. Well, meet then the enterprise application that we've built for them. We build a solution that manages the lifecycle of all of the assets of AssetWorks, of Fluxys. This application is being used by more than 200 employees daily, even up to the CEO is looking into this. So it's really everything to manage from the life cycle of an asset. Let's say a piece of land or a building or a piece of pipe. All of those components are uniquely identified. And we didn't reinvent the wheel. There was an SAP system to manage all of those assets, but the process around it was cumbersome and very hard to do so. This application allowed people to collaborate on asset lifecycle. So very interesting, complicated enterprise application, mission critical, with a lot of integrations to systems, even to on-premise systems. So really a good solution being delivered there and allowed us to get more and more buy-in within Fluxys within the organization. Next up, more scaling of citizen development, where we saw business creating their own application to improve their own productivity. One of the examples that business has been building there was a business card generator. Before they had to do this via SharePoint and via email, they need to ask for approval from the manager, etc. Now business decided to create like a QR and a business card generator application. Allows people to fill in their information, have a preview on how it looks like, and the ability to send this over to their manager for approval. That's one example. Another example of an application that business has been building was a unit converter. Basically, when you have gas, it has, depending on the composition, it can take different, let's say, parameters. For example, what's the volume of a certain gas? It really depends on the temperature, but also on the chemical composition. So all of those things were done in Excels and everywhere. The business also decided to create like a simple application for them to easily convert different units depending on the gas and the gas composition. And now latest things we did there were discovery days. And this is regular training and inspiration. So getting more and more people into the Power Platform and joining the low-code, no-code revolution at Fluxys. And behind the scenes, you see there a chart, the blue line here, which is a representation of the number of applications that have been building or have been built at Fluxys from citizen development, but also from IT development perspective. This is where an example customer where you can have fusion development being put in practice, but also pure citizen development and also pure IT rapid application development. And they're very self-sustaining right now. They have like a center of excellence team that we coached and guide, and they're working themselves, continuing their journey. And this is also one of our goals that we want to do. We want to make our customers as self-sustaining as possible, as quick as possible, because we don't want to be the depending party that actually limits the potential scalability. Now, how can you make your low-code, no-code journey a success? I have a couple of tips I want to share here with you all that you can take along into preventing the mistakes that we started with from happening or from occurring. First one is assembling of the right team. Remember, the wrong people at the party, the right stakeholders. So depending on the size of your organization, you might have more or less people required in the initiative. For sure, you need executive sponsorship. You need to have someone on executive level which is interested in low-code, no-code, and is willing to pay for it. Then you can think about other people like training leads, champions, success owners, communication leads, an admin team, Power Platform admin team, a nurturing team. All of those roles are important as well. And you'll see they come from different departments. And this is what makes things challenging. When things are crossing departments, it always becomes more challenging. And the roles, the KPIs, the goals that you want to set should be cross department. What we often see is that the admin team is not really a problem. Power Platform admin team, a lot of IT people that are willing to bolt things down or to structure everything, that's often not the challenge. We see more challenging in communication, in nurturing, in training, in championing to find the right people in the organization. Next up, remember the boat sailing in no clear direction. Well, how to solve that? You do that by setting SMART goals. And I guess most of you have already seen the acronym, but it's always a good reminder to remind ourselves what is a SMART goal. So SMART goal stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time related. So something that's clear and unambiguous, that's concrete, that's achievable, that's in line with the realities of the stakeholders, realistic, and that can be linked to a specific target date. So a couple of tips and tricks to create SMART goals or to take into account. First one is aligning with your business goal. Ensure that your low-code, no-code program aligns with your overall broader business objectives. We often ask the question to people like when we have a certain idea or a goal, how does this contribute to the overall vision of the organization? And often people start to doubt and say, yeah, you're right. It's not really aligned with what we are standing for. It's a good idea. It's nice. It's easy achievable, but it's not contributing. So make sure that it contributes the overall business goals, business objective, overall vision, overall mission of your organization. It should all be aligned. Next one, when you have the SMART goals defined, is to visualize this on a roadmap. Best to create a detailed plan with milestones and deliverables to guide the project from beginning to completion. So don't just have a list of goals in an Excel somewhere, make it visual in a roadmap and make it clear and report regularly upon where you are in your overall journey with regards to the roadmap. And lastly, measuring. If you don't measure it, you don't know it. So define good KPIs, good metrics to track progress. Review them and potentially change your goals if necessary. Things evolve like lightning speed. So it's fine to change your goals if necessary, but consider it properly and don't change your goal every single day. Couple of examples of SMART goals that you could consider and you can take away. For example, we want to, in our organization, reduce custom software development by 10% within the next 12 months. All right, this is something that you can measure. How much custom software development is my organization doing? And you want to actually lower that by 10% by using low-code and no-code technologies. Another example is the amount of time saved by using Power Platform solutions instead of manual processes by 2025. So the X, you need to fill it in yourself. How much time that you want people to save by using the Power Platform solution instead of doing manual processes. And the last example is the amount of employees that you would like to have completed a training or at least advance their career with Power Platform by a given date again. So these are a couple of examples of SMART goals that you could use when defining your low-code, no-code strategy. Now, another tip and advice is to increase the adoption. You see a lot of common resistant themes, and you need to get them out of the way as soon as possible and mitigate them. Popular ones are first one, for example, resistance from IT, a fear of data loss. Suddenly, everybody is a developer. And whoa, who is going to manage all of the data, all of those applications? Why? What can happen? Why can people not just share their data with people that shouldn't get access to data? So there's a lot of fear of potential data loss. And this is where you want to talk with your IT administrators and guide them through the different admin capabilities that they can understand that it's way better to have people building applications on a governed platform than something that people are building anyhow, shadow IT, potentially creating local Excels with some macros somewhere, or maybe some Access databases. We've seen it all at organizations. So it's much better to get them on a governed, secure platform. And the Microsoft Power Platform has a lot of capabilities and a lot of configuration to make sure that you can sleep at night. Second one is that people are perceiving the Power Platform not as a development tool. So just for proof of concept, for some demos, for some sandwich applications. Well, that's where you can get inspired by a partner, for example, like us, about multiple enterprise applications, examples of mission critical apps that are being used by thousands of users concurrently, again, on the same platform. Even with pro-code capabilities, extensibility on Azure, all of that is possible. Another one, lack of leader buy-in. This is also a very typical one. People are starting with the low-code, no-code journey, but they don't get leadership involved. So this is really a key important aspect where we help inspire leadership, make sure that they understand what are all the benefits of doing low-code, no-code at your organization. Two more, no progress in adoption. Adoption, you saw that as well a couple of times in my presentation here. The adoption is so crucial. Change management, you need to make sure that people adopt it. And someone needs to focus on it. It's not something you can do again at the side. Last one is job security. Even more with AI, you see that. People are worried about their job. So in this Power Platform, you can say, well, actually, it's not going to replace you. You're going to be more augmented with it, with the low-code Power Platform. You can as well build applications faster, but you can still develop your pro-code components and in a fusion development aspect, help each other out. Another big tip I would like to share with you is, like, this is from a book of Joseph Grenny, The 6 Sources of Influence. Maybe some of you know it. Feel free to drop in the chat if you've seen it before. And the thing is that people need to be somehow motivated to be able to adopt this new platform, this new strategy, this new change. And we often invest a lot of time in number 2. That's where the personal ability comes into place, where you provide training and tutorials to make sure that your employees are upskilled. But that's not the only source of influence that you can play on your employees. You can also think about the personal motivation. How can you make the undesirable desirable? Explain to them that there's really a big speed or a quick and easy way to build applications for themselves to make their life easier so that they really get personally motivated. Then you have the social aspect, a social motivation, where you can say, let's share success stories and recognize achievements. This is where a community can play a big role in. Make a platform, make people available to put their stories on the internet, allow them to share their success stories. This is bringing the social aspect of influence. And then lastly, you have like structural motivation. Don't underestimate the impact of a small gift or of a small reward or a small challenge. Put that in place and you will see that people are going to adopt the platform and the low-code, no-code area much faster. Popular adoption tactics as well include organization of a hackathon. A hackathon is still a very good concept, which really brings people together, clears up their agenda for 1 day or 2 days, and allows them to build an application. And you can bring the different perspectives together. You have like maybe a more seasoned Power Platform developer joined by a business user which has no experience with IT joined maybe by another IT administrator, so forming a team of multidisciplinary skills and then doing fusion development in practice. It still works beautifully. So organize it and also organize it regularly. You do one, you show the success, you communicate to everybody, you invite people for another one, and you can see that more of those ideas are actually creating business value in your organization, because that's at the end where it all matters for, right? From a training perspective, multiple formats, we are often a believer of being self-sustained in, in your training. So not being able to wait for a training on a certain day, but allowing to conduct self-training resources. For example, as well, use of co-pilots to ask certain questions when people are stuck, but potentially as well work with a partner that allows you to ask more technical questions, more in detail, and get like a second opinion on certain things. Because it's really a journey that you start as a citizen developer, and having someone at your side is always helpful. Think about community and user groups. All of that will make it a much more fun experience for everybody. Then, next, implement just enough governance and security protocols. You see here, just enough. So don't kill the initiative from the beginning by overdoing it, but also don't cause chaos by not doing anything. There are some typical things that we share when we start with organizations from the beginning on to secure the platform. A lot of default settings are there, but not per se set in the way that we want it. You can see here some examples. The self-service purchase. For example, people are able to just put their credit card and buy a license of the Power Platform and get going, unless you disable that. Same for trial environment and production environment creation. People can just start creating stuff. Sharing an app with everyone is also a very important one. By default, that's allowed. So you can, a citizen developer can just share an app with everyone and notify everyone of their new beautiful application. Imagine that happening if there's no governance in place. On-premise data gateway installers, this is a utility to consult on-premise data. We see that a lot, that just people with their laptop start installing the on-premise data gateway and start having local files being made available on the Power Platform. Yeah, doesn't sound like a very good idea if you ask me. Cross-tenant isolation, also a very interesting one. Typically not set up correctly, allowing people to just create their own trial tenant on a Microsoft and start creating connections to your tenant. So actually removing any governance that you had put in place, just out of the window. So a couple of secure aspects that we really want to share with you just to prevent disasters from happening. So if you haven't considered those, talk with your IT person and make sure that those things are at least covered. From a governance perspective, there you can think about the different governance documentation you want to create, clarity, when can you create a new environment? When are you allowed to create an application? What's the process that you should follow? And again, don't overdo it, but at least gradually grow with your organization, with your strategy, step by step. For example, you want to make sure that it's clear for everybody, where does citizen development and low-code, no-code journey sit? Is it for complex enterprise mission applications, or is it more for the applications that are less business critical? So all of that determines if you want to allow or disallow low-code, no-code by a maker or a citizen developer. And lastly, regularly monitor, make sure you have people in place that are actually doing this on a bi-weekly basis, for example, checking what are the new applications being built, what are the questions that people are raising, how can we foster that community building. All of that needs to happen continuously. This is an important aspect as well. Once you define this journey and you go in this journey, it's important that you keep on investing in it. It's a continuous exercise. The platform evolves as well, lightning speed. Imagine Copilot just as an example. Okay, how do we get started? What's our communication? What do we train people for? It's a never-ending journey that you're going in, And so don't just see this as a one-off show where you have defined governance and you don't look at it. No, it won't happen. You will need to keep on updating it. And then the last tip is don't reinvent the wheel. Yeah, this is where we want to highlight for you that you could work with an experienced partner to accelerate the journey and avoid the pitfalls we've been talking before. And so that's what we do as well. We at your organization, we can act as coach mentors. We act as accountability partners to make sure that things that you say are happening and that we are going in the right direction, in the right goals, but also supportive and challenging. So it really depends on how much support you want from a partner like us. We can go very lightly or we can go very heavily. And our goal is to make ourselves obsolete in your organization as soon as possible. And like at the Fluxys example, we want to make sure that people, teams, organizations can work on their own, can scale on their own, and they can consult us for those really specific expertise guidance. So that's what we do at AppFi. We accelerate this digital innovation, and we're doing this already since 2016. We are a boutique partner. That's how Microsoft calls us, because we have a niche focus on the Power Platform since the beginning. We've been doing this for the last 8 years, and we're very people oriented and technology adoption focused. Again, we are an empowerment partner. We want to make sure that people can take the things in their own hands and that they're not just creating another dependency on a third party partner. You don't want that. We have a hybrid delivery model, so we not only do low-code and no-code strategy and implementations, but also larger mission-critical enterprise application builds, but also supporting your citizen developers when they are stuck with some technical or functional questions. We're all certified, Microsoft Certified Solution Partner, and we also work from the Agile Scrum philosophy, and all our consultants are certified. With a couple of references that you can see here, feel free if you want to talk about any of those companies offline, drop me an email and we can definitely have a chat about what we're doing at that organization. So 3 main things we do: we think along, we do things, and we teach you. So thinking along is more on the strategic angle. Doing is more being actively involved, for example, doing hackathons, building certain solution. And the last one is teaching, where we can help with app in a day, workshops, mentoring, specific training hackathons. Those are the biggest things we do. So good job, we made it. I can see that we're also still in time, so I'm also quite happy. So I hope you enjoyed it. We will end the presentation as well with a couple of minutes for questions. But first, of course, the free gift that I was talking about in the beginning. So your free gift is a free 30-minute strategy call with myself or anyone of our team. So we can dive into your organization, your specific pain points or opportunities that you see, and we can talk them through and see how I can give my advice to take the right next step. So feel free to book your free 30-minute strategy call. You can do this by scanning the QR code or by copying this link that you see on the slide here. And I hope to see you there soon. If you're not able to book a slot in the next couple of weeks, you're always welcome at our booth. We are a Power Platform, a European Power Platform Conference sponsor. We are available at booth number 4. So I'm really looking forward to meeting you all, get some feedback as well from the presentation we saw here today, and ask any or talk about any other questions you might have. So thanking everybody again for your attendance and being here. It's always a bit awkward talking to nobody. So I hope we have some questions in the chat and we can have a bit of interaction at the end. And I can hopefully provide some additional value to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jonas, for a great presentation. So now we'll get into the questions and answers part. Should you wish to ask a question, please feel free to type it in the questions box now. So for the first question is, I think it was just from before. I think it's so for me, I wouldn't say failure, more as a more as a difficulty, is that I work in a highly regulated company, finance sector, and because of all the audits, documentation, security concepts, etc., for now we decided that this will stay within IT, MS Power Platform. So for us, in long term, the issue will be to create an environment where the governance and the documentation requirements are met in 100% while enabling some citizen development.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that the additional challenge for highly regulated organizations. We've been working with companies like that as well, like KBC. Maybe you noticed it somewhere there as well, was a customer of ours. And indeed, the level of regulation or high regulation might require a more mature governance to be set in stone or in place to make sure everybody is comfortable opening up citizen development. But it should not be a roadblocker. It's potentially IT that's it's maybe doing it even more overly complicated. So feel free to reach out and we can have a conversation about how KBC, for example, tackles this situation or other organizations which are highly regulated. But I understand that for those organizations, they are typically a bit more bolting it down and take a bit more time gradually to open up. But there's hope, I can tell you.
Perfect. So just the next question there is, do you use multiple landing zones within with multiple production environments?
Yeah, we have different environment strategies at different organizations, so it depends on the organizational structure and the ambition, what you want to do. If it's low code, no code citizen development, or if it's rapid application development, enterprise critical applications. A couple of typical patterns we advise. If it's like an enterprise mission critical application, this deserves a dedicated landing zone, dedicated street, a dedicated dev test UAT production environment, fully automated deployable with automated testing. So that's where you go there. And then for the other extreme is for citizen development, low code, no code, smaller application, personal productivity focused. For that, it's perfectly fine to work either in a personal productivity environment with limited DLPs and, let's say, protected from a data source perspective, or more popular lately is their own personal development environment where they can play around. And then you have, yeah, in the middle, this is a conversation often where you can say, okay, an environment or a landing zone per application, yeah, that would be the safest. But then you create like hundreds of environments with hundreds of applications. So that's also not something that works quite well. So that's where the department focus comes in, where you say, depending on different departments, you create then your landing zones and your street, minimal development and a production environment, where you have some sort of lightweight governance or ownership of that specific department being clarified.
Amazing. So just the next question there is, are you happy or worried about the progress that Microsoft Copilot is making? For example, describe a business problem and it creates a basic database and app for you. Feels like we're losing control.
Losing control. I'm not worried. That's one thing to answer your question. Personally, I see this as a huge opportunity, this late new technology, but it makes you emphasize that you need to get along with it and start looking into it and start getting yourself acquainted with it and training yourself with it, because the evolution is indeed going at lightning speed. But I'm not against the fact that it removes a lot of tedious activities. It's not there yet, in my opinion, but you can see where it's going. And the skill that you need to have tomorrow is a skill about being able to properly communicate what do you actually want? What is your requirement? What do you want to get solved? And this is often where still consultants come in to actually get that information out of your head, because it's a challenging task. But once you have mastered that specific ability to be able to express very consciously and very detailed what you want, why not have a co-pilot next to you, building all of those tables for you, building the framework, building the skeleton, and allowing you to have an app instead of weeks, now done in hours. I'm not against that. I only see more benefits to that. But the skills that you need might change. You need to be able to more formulate better what you want and not really focus too much on the ability to create tables in a rapid way, because those table creation will be done by our copilot in a very fast way. So I see it as an opportunity and as a benefit, and really as our personal assistant.
Perfect. So just next questions there is what steps can be taken to ensure data integrity and governance within Power Platform applications?
For sure, you need to look at the capabilities of the platform. That's where you need to start. What are all the, let's say, guardrails and configurations that you can set in place? A typical one is the data loss prevention policy. Allows you to make sure that you don't want data to move outside of your tenant, for example, or that people connect personal data sources in your professional tenant. So making sure that's all configured and bolted down appropriately. And then there are other Microsoft technologies as well that allow you to have a more data governance overview aspect on your all tenant, and that you can see which kind of data people are storing in the Power Platform. And if it's concerning, for example, like let's say credit card information, you don't want people to put that somewhere in a database in Dataverse. So you want to be highlighted on that. And those are specific Microsoft technologies available. It used to be called Purview. I don't know if it's still called like that or if they rebranded it already, but it allows you to have more a data governance perspective, a view across all of the different data in your tenant.
Perfect. So this just looks like the last question, if that's all right. So how do you see the Microsoft Power Platform evolving over the next few years?
That's a good question. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it will be more and more easier for a maker, a user with no technical background, to be able to speed up digitization. So you can see the trend for the last 10 years, the low code, no code. In the beginning, it was pro code. You had to be a developer to write C# code and to then have talking with the business user back and forth. Then you had the low code area where you could drag and drop. And finally, you could, in a very easy way, create all of the plumbing. I was very happy at that moment because I used to be actually a developer, and it was taking quite some time, just the skeleton and the framework. So low code pops in, and now you have no code, just expressing certain things that you want, and behind the scenes, you don't need to worry about it. It will just create that automation for you. So you see the shift, you see the pattern, and I'm only seeing it continue in that direction. So less hands-on, drag and drop required time losing, more articulating properly what you want, and letting, let's say, the heavy lifting being done by a robot.
Perfect. So I think that's all the questions now. So on behalf of the ESPC community, we'd like to extend a big thank you to you again, Jonas, for taking the time to carry out this webinar. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome anytime.
So that's the end of today's webinar. You can find this webinar and more at sharepointeurope.com/resource center. Thanks again to all of you for joining us today, and I hope you join us again soon. Take care.
See you, everybody. Hope to see you at the booth. Bye-bye.